One of the most overlooked challenges for an athlete is the mental aspect. To be an exceptional athlete, you have to not only bring the physical part of the game, but also be able to handle the mental obstacles. In sports, I've had to strengthen my mind as much as my skill. I've been playing basketball for 9 years, and I believe that I've proved my skill through the countless hours that I've put into the game. As an athlete, I've fought through many hardships and have had to confront the pressure of the game on and off the court. When the expectations are bigger than you are, it can put you in the dark. For most of my basketball career, I felt like I was living in a shadow of expectations, and it almost ended it altogether.
Well, when she was in 3rd grade, she was playing volleyball, and her coach actually invited her to come play basketball. And she was like, okay, well, I'll come try, because her brother's been playing for years, been watching her, and once she was out there, it was like she automatically knew where to go, and basketball just became a part of her life.
I met her on our 3rd grade Parks and Rec basketball team, and we weren't very close back then, but she was still a great teammate and a great person to be around and play with. It was 3rd grade. Everyone loved playing basketball. It was just something fun to do, but that was the way I met Ellie, and so I'm glad we ended up on the same team.
So Parks and Rec, yeah, that's where she started, just for that 1 year, and then she went into the feeder program for basketball, which is Marysville Select. And so then we started playing different teams, went from Mount Vernon down to, Mount Si, Issaquah area, did that. And so we got to see new teams, and girls basketball is a little rough. A lot of people don't show up, like the teams didn't show up. So it was a little frustrating to go down there and not get to play or travel. But then the next year, when she was, I think it was 5th grade, is when we really started having fun. They had a great coach. They won their first tournament of the year. It was called, I think, the Turkey Trot or something like that. It was Thanksgiving, and it was just a lot more fun to travel when you're winning. It's more fun to travel.
I first found my love for basketball in the summer going into my 5th grade year. I played select basketball for the first time in 4th grade, and I didn't really do that well. I didn't play that much, but I went to an MP camp that summer, and I finally saw everything starting to click, and improvements were huge for me. And the coach at MP at that time actually gave me the MVP and the top gun of the camp, which was really awesome. So that's kind of when I finally thought that it was going to be fun for me and I could really improve later on in life.
My first impression of Ellie, I've known Ellie a long time, through middle school, and that's always an awkward phase, right? But Ellie never really entered that weird phase. She was always more mature than a lot of the other people, kids that I had in class. So she was more one that I could have conversations with. But she was very sweet, very kind, conscientious, super empathetic towards people, even to the point where I'm like, babe, really? I just appreciated how she treated everyone with respect.
I started working with the high school team when I was in the 7th grade. I played in a spring league with them for a little while, and then I went to a Central Washington camp with them. And then I just been playing with them ever since.
Ellie had a lot of potential. She was smart, which again, that's a huge piece of sports, which some people don't get, but it is a huge piece to sports. There's a lot of different things going on at one time. And she had that ability to understand and learn quickly. She was eager and she was positive. Again, something I look for as a coach is that positive coachability, and Ellie had that.
Basketball meant, for Ellie, it was just, it became her passion. It became what she wanted to do. She no longer wanted to do other sports. She wanted to do training. She wanted to find out how to play college ball, and she wanted to be on the varsity team. That was her first goal, and so that's what she was focused on, just becoming good enough to be on varsity when she started in high school.
I think Ellie has always grown to be such a hardworking person on the court and off the court. I think she has such a determined mindset, and she always sets goals for herself and follows through, which is very rare, I feel like.
Coming in, the expectations of freshmen typically are that they're expected to be 6th, 7th man off the bench, to give immediately. You wouldn't take a freshman unless you had expectations for them to produce.
I was extremely happy for Ellie when I learned that she made varsity. She really deserves it, and when she told me, I just felt so proud. And you can just tell that all her hard work has just paid off, and at that moment, she was just really extremely happy, and I was happy for her too.
Well, I didn't know that she was going to start her first game on varsity. She left for the game and she's like, I don't know, Mom, I don't know. She hasn't told me, Shannon hasn't told me. So I was just sitting there waiting, and I was so nervous to seeing her warm up, and I was just like, I don't want to yell, are you starting? Are you starting?
So during warm-ups, I obviously was really scared to be on the bench in general, playing my first game as a freshman. But when it came to 5 minutes before the game, she told me, Ellie, you're gonna be starting, so sit down with the seniors. And I looked at my mom and I was like, oh, I didn't know I was starting, this is crazy. But it was honestly really validating that I'd worked so hard my whole life to be able to get to this point, so young with a bunch of seniors.
When they called everybody in and she sat down in those chairs to know that she was a starter, I started shaking, and I'm filming, and you can see on the video that my hands are shaking, and it was so exciting. It was special for all of us. It was special for her brother. I've never seen him so happy for her. He stood up and just yelled, and I have that on video, so that every time I watch it, I get a little choked up, because I'm like, he's so proud of her, of what she could do.
A huge part of bringing a young girl up to the team as a freshman is you have to make the rest of your team understand that she is a valuable piece, and that how are we going to make her a part, and how are we going to take whatever she can give us and guide her through what our goals were for the season.
With basketball, I definitely have a lot of high expectations for myself, and I think a lot of people have expectations on me as well, even if they don't. And so when I would do really well, it was really awesome that I could make them proud, and I would know that I didn't disappoint anyone. And so I'd be really happy after tournaments or after games.
And Ellie was raring to go. She was so excited from day one. Never to the point where she didn't work hard or thought it was a given because she knew me, which can be typical. Oh, I know the head coach, so I'm just gonna do. That was never the case. She was always very, very respectful of me, even though knowing me outside of school and as a friend, there was never that breach of that coach-player relationship.
It was the middle of the season, and we were playing Linwood for the first time, and I'd been going through a lot of things outside of basketball, and I really didn't try to put that to the side, and I let it affect my playing on the court.
It was really hard to see Ellie really affected by that, because I could sense how she was feeling too, and I also knew what she was going through. And no one deserves that. It's always really hard, especially falling out with a friend like that really closely.
I could tell when she walked out one day from school when I picked her up that something had happened, and that there was, I could just see it on her face, and I think she immediately got in the car and started crying.
It affected her outside of school, and whenever I saw her, how often we talk, what she'd want to talk about, her playing on the court, and how her mental health was doing. And it was just hard because you could just see that she has had better days.
And I remember I was going into that game with just a lot of things on my plate and on my shoulders, and I just wasn't having it. I was missing shots, I was fouling on purpose, and I just didn't want to be in the game. And my head coach Shannon at the time took me out first quarter pretty early into the game, and I didn't play the second quarter at all. And then at halftime, she told me if I put my head down, I'm not going to play the rest of the game. And in my head, you would think that I'd be, okay, of course I'm going to step up, I'm going to do this, but I knew that I just didn't want to play. And so probably 2 minutes into the third quarter, I purposely fouled, put my head down, and I just sat out the rest of the game.
It just weighed her down, and she was just couldn't play. She went out there and I could just tell something was wrong. I thought she was hurt. because she pretty much got sat pretty quickly, and I just sat there the whole game, just up in the stands going, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong?
No one really knew if I was injured or didn't really understand, but I just was mentally like drained, and I just like didn't want to be in the game.
And so, you know, you always worry about your kids getting hurt physically. But when I found out it was an emotional thing that she just could not push it aside, that it was just, you know, it's heartbreaking. And I'm like, this can't happen. This cannot affect your life this much, because it's affecting the thing that you love the most, is basketball.
There was that one point where I'm like, okay, this is the make or break. You can either decide that you don't hit your first couple shots and fold, or you can decide, okay, what am I going to do to pick myself up, to lean on my teammates, because not necessarily is it going to come from the coach all of the time. Am I going to choose to do that or not? And she did.
We were playing Linwood again in a play-in game, and it was the last game of the season if we lost, and if we won, we had 2 more games, and I knew I had to really step up my game.
And it was a game that was very important to us, and I think the majority of the assists came from Maddie. And it was one of those things that I knew at some point it was going to happen, because that's how Lou shoots.
She was hitting the threes, because the first time we played Linwood, she had a really rough game. So just to see her, you know, playing really well and how it was going and frustrating the other team.
I could hear that it was close. And the nice thing, it was really cool, because my oldest daughter, Gabby, was the one who held the record, and she was in the stands.
I think when she hit 5, I turned around to Gabby Grambois, because she had the previous record. She had the record. I knew she had it. And I said, what's your record? And she said 6. And I was like, okay. And so then she hit the 6th one, and I knocked over my chair. I jumped up. I'm screaming.
You find her anywhere and she's going to make it. Off balance, off her back foot, not exactly the correct form, but she'll make it. And that's where we were.
I broke the school record for most threes in the game. The previous record was 6, and I had 8.
And then I'm texting her brother, and he was so mad he wasn't there. He's like, why am I not there? And it was crazy. I mean, as soon as the game was over, I threw down my stuff and I ran down the stairs, and I was like, everybody move. I'm hugging her. I don't care. But it was, yeah, I caused damage to things because I got so excited. And it's something we talk about it all the time. And I have the newspaper with it, and I always say, oh, my daughter's got the school record. And freshman year, you know, that's just, I just can't even imagine. It's just something I would never have thought would have ever happened.
Breaking the school record meant a lot to me because that same day I actually confronted the outside factors that were affecting my game, and there was just a huge lift off my shoulders, and that just caused me to just be able to play my game and just focus and not have to think about anything else. And so it was really nice that I was able to do that for the team and for myself.
To see Ellie confront her issue that same day and goes off and breaks the school record for making the most threes in a game is absolutely insane. And it just shows how much strength and courage Ellie has, and she put it all past her and just played her best.
And so that was the coolest thing. Was I didn't really know till the end of the game. I knew she had hit a lot, but again, I was just looking for that win and us to do well, so I didn't really know. And I just thought, after the game, I thought it was really cool because they had said it, I had overheard it, and I'm like, really? And then I immediately looked up at Gabby, and Gabby was like, there is no other person that would ever want to beat me out in anything but Ellie.
I didn't go into that game thinking I was going to break a school record. I didn't even know there was a record for threes, but I just really wanted to do it for the seniors. And it was honestly surreal just hitting shot after shot. Every time, I think I've only missed a couple. And just seeing how proud my coaches were, my teammates, and especially my parents was really like heartwarming and things like that.
It's that exceeding the expectations. It's Ellie being comfortable enough to really come into herself and have the confidence, because not a lot of people continue to shoot, right? You're like, okay, I'm gonna find the better pass or whatever. There's a lot of mental things that go on in your brain, but for her to feel comfortable enough, and I know Maddie is like, keep shooting, get the ball to Ellie. And so I think for the teammates to see that and to use that to better the score for us in our favor is a huge step, not only for me, but as Ellie as a player. Just carry it through, you know? And I don't think that she was thinking in her brain, oh my gosh, if I get one more. I just think it was like this huge momentum shift in the game, and her being that main contributing factor to it was that piece in her career where she's like, okay, I can do this. Like, regardless of age, regardless of any sort of hardships, friendships that I've had wrong me or anything like that, it was over. All of that was behind her, and she had really made her mark in our program. I think that was validation for her.
With COVID, I came off the season for high school on cloud 9, thinking AAU season was going to be so great. We were starting a month later, and I was so excited. And then as soon as everything shut down, I realized everything was just put on me. I had to be self-disciplined and have the motivation to work out every single day, get better, because gyms weren't open, no practices were going on, there was no time to play, any of that. And so I think having to do that for myself was really hard, and it was for many athletes, not just for myself.
There's so many different ways that this is impacted. COVID has impacted, where it was just people were happy to be on the court, right? And just happy to be out there. And then now with the constraints that come with that, people have gone from one side over to the other, where now it's not worth it. And, I don't want that, but you really need that balance to, especially when it's been such a significant part of your life, playing sports, you really get lost.
I saw girls on social media being able to play and being able to train and getting all these opportunities, and I was just stuck at home trying to motivate myself, and that comparing factor was really hard because I felt like I was falling behind. I felt like they were getting so much better and I was just stuck in the same place as I was, previous season, which of course was great, but it wasn't as good as it needs to be, especially playing at a higher level like that when it comes to AAU.
It's gotten to a point now where these players are stuck. They don't want to do this because what's the gratification that's come from it?
She would do trainings, and she would do well at the trainings, but I could just tell she was frustrated. And once in a while, she would, just afterwards, she'd just be like, it's not fun. I'm not having fun. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make it better.
Once we hit September, October, I went to a tournament for the first time, being able to play out of state, which was awesome. But there was these girls there that, have been able to play because they live in different states. And I just felt like my team and myself were just very far behind when it comes to basketball skill level.
And it was really hard for her to go from being, so good, and even not necessarily, because a lot of times the team will be bad and I'll just focus on, okay, Ellie's doing great. But she really didn't have any of those moments. I could tell that there was something wrong, that she wasn't happy.
I think when I broke the school record, I definitely felt like I could do anything and everything was being validated. All the work I finally put in was showing on the court. And so when I was at those tournaments and all the work that I continued to put in all summer, be probably the fittest I've been because I was working out so much and training, just did nothing. It just didn't really make sense to me in my head of why would I keep working hard for that when nothing is showing on the court? And so that really had a drain on me and an effect, and it caused me to want to quit basketball, actually.
When you don't have a security in yourself, a confidence, a safe place, a safe environment where you can really truly be you or mess up or any of those things, it makes it impossible for any of the kids to succeed.
There was just no point in wasting my time, wasting my parents' money and all of that, and the guilt that I felt from that. Making my parents having to do that was really tough for me.
I've watched many kids really just self-sabotage, You know, they feel like guilty because they've put in a bunch of money towards helping them become better. Those results aren't showing up in the way that a parent may feel.
Mentally, I was able to cope with that by going to counseling, actually. I had a conversation with my mom, and it was a day after training that I had a really rough one, and I just knew I didn't want to do it anymore. And I asked her, I was like, can I go to, a sports psychologist, or can I go to a counselor just to talk?
When Ellie came to me and said, Mom, would you be okay if I went into counseling, or can we find me a counselor? And honestly, it was a huge relief, because we had been having the same conversations for months and months, and I knew I wasn't helping.
I mean, I'm able to talk about outside things that are affecting me, let alone from basketball, but especially during that time, they finally showed me what self-worth was, and being able to cope with that was huge.
When you're struggling mentally, I personally feel that you have to fix yourself first, and whatever the process that needs to happen, whether that's a little bit of rest, whether that's speaking to people that you trust, believe in, and that doesn't have to be about X's and O's. It's really where I'm at. If I'm unhappy with the game, let's uncover why that's happening. Let's learn why you're unhappy playing right now.
I injured my knee when I went to a basketball training, and I stepped to the right, and I just felt a huge pop in my knee, and my leg went numb. And I've injured myself multiple times, and I kind of just thought, oh, it's sore, we're just gonna move on. I didn't collapse or anything, so I thought I'll be fine.
And afterwards, she kind of stopped, and she was like, oh, my knee hurts. And I was like, oh, she's a basketball player, and my son's a basketball player, and knees hurt all the time. And she's like, I'm okay, we left, it was over.
And so later that day, I actually had a basketball practice, and the whole time I just kept telling my friends and my teammates, I was like, my knee feels like it needs to pop, it's really, really painful.
I think it was right before Thanksgiving, she came to me and said, Mom, I can't feel my foot. It's ice cold, and it was ice cold. And so, frantic, because I'm thinking I don't know what she'd done. So we went to a walk-in clinic, and it just it took a long time. We went to a walk-in clinic and went to an orthopedist and got MRIs, and nobody really had an answer for her. And it was one of those, you say, I don't want to be hurt, but I want to know why this is hurting.
After many doctor's appointments, actually, many specialists I went to, they finally figured out that I tore my meniscus, and I had to get surgery on that and plica, which is just something that's rubbing against your kneecap that caused probably the most pain of the injury, and also fat pads, so they had to remove that as well.
So that her finally getting surgery was actually a relief. Even though she was in so much pain after the surgery, I'm just I was kind of happy. It was kind of sad that I was happy that, okay, she's having surgery, we can move on.
People have more empathy when it comes to injuries and mental health in athletes, and I feel like that definitely showed within everybody, because they understood now, hey, I can't play basketball, that's why you're sad, because you're injured. But little did they know I didn't want to play basketball in the first place, so my knee was like a saving grace in a way, which is, disappointing, but I feel like it was a blessing in disguise.
I remember that I went over to her house to visit her, and I brought her, I think it was brownies or cookies from Safeway that she wanted specifically. And she was just sitting on the couch, just couldn't do anything. And I was just like, how did it go to this?
A lot of people that are injured, or especially ACLs and things like that, it's one thing to get healthy. It's another thing to play. It take a year to get healthy, but it's probably 4 or 5 more months before you play without thinking about the injury and basing your game around injuries.
I was worried, but I don't think I was worried in the sense that this is gonna kill Elle. She's just not gonna come back from it. I just thought it's just a speed bump.
After surgery, my idea of getting injured definitely changed. That relief quickly changed to knowing I had to be motivated to get back to play high school later that year. I had a huge goal to be able to play my junior year of high school, and I was out just watching the girls play, and it was just really hard because I relied on my parents a lot. I relied on other people having to grab things for me. I even had to get help to go to the bathroom, to shower, because I couldn't walk for a little while.
I'm a mama bear. If somebody says something bad about my kid, or if there's something I want, I go after it and protect her. And so that I couldn't protect her from the pain, of the physical pain, and then the emotional pain. It's hard to see, and it's really hard as a parent to see your daughter, struggling on the court and then struggling personally.
It was really hard seeing Ellie's knee affect her because she and I both knew that she couldn't do anything at all besides rest. And from going to doing so much movement constantly to having to sit at home just doing nothing is terrible, because I could kind of sense her emotions through what she was feeling, but it's not like I ever experienced something like that. It was just really hard to just see her super down about it.
In the back of my head, even when I heard about it, I thought, you know what? It sucks. But she's gonna overcome this. She's overcome so much. She's so strong that I don't think that this is gonna stop her in any way.
There was a lot of ups and downs getting back to my knee injury. I would go from 2 months being able to do everything they asked me to do and really improve every single time I went to rehab, which was great. But then I finally got to a point in, I believe it was May, and my quad just wouldn't do anything. I could barely lift up my leg. You would ask to tighten it and there would be no muscle going through. And that was just really hard because since I did have that goal of playing my high school, it just kept getting closer.
She went to physical therapy for a long time. She went before, she went after, and she hit a point where she just was like, this isn't, I'm not going anywhere. They're not pushing me. And so she had just started back up with basketball training with a new trainer that we knew. And so she'd been, doing that because they gave her clearance to said, okay, she can start, not jumping, but just start shooting.
She had trained with me a little bit before in group setting, but was fixated on becoming a better basketball player and healthier player. She had come off a big knee injury. So we got started very early in the process where she was only able to move frontwards and backwards, but there was still a lot of things that we could try to accomplish along the way. And because we had that previous time, she knows how much I value footwork and fundamentals. So it was really a great time to put a reset on everything, so to speak.
He introduced me to my strength trainer, Rob, who helped me do agility, strength in my knee, running, and just all that goes with it. And doing that and with the basketball training really helped me get to where I am right now.
She was able to go see Rob and get numbers of what her actual strength was. And then I could implement some of these things, these lateral drills now that are challenging her.
And they would coordinate saying, okay, she's ready. She can start jumping. She can start doing moves. So it was really nice to have that.
And kind of fighting through the barrier that she had been limited to, because this is what she's used to hurt-wise and sore-wise. What's sore, what's actual pain. And so we really broke through. I think she saw a lot of drills that she didn't see herself able to do with that time period.
And you just got to get over it. It's tough. That's the hardest part about an injury, especially something devastating like a knee injury, is, oh gosh, if I step this way, you don't want to recreate or re-feel that same pain. And so that's the hardest part to get over, that no, your body is stronger, and then it actually was, because everything is in the right place. But that's the hardest part to get over. But you can see that she's reached there. But then the mental part of the game is so much more strong. It's so much more refined, because you have this much time to be an athlete. And so you've got to hone all of those aspects of the game that you can within that short amount of time, so that you can be as successful as you can. And I think that she's done that, definitely.
We really, I think, created a confidence for her and a freedom, a release, to where she could really go into her season with a lot of belief that she can really be special.
When she had her first game at the high school, I was so stressed out. I was so worried. I'm like, oh, she's got to do well. I know it's going to break her heart if she doesn't do well.
Her goal was to try to play in the season, but didn't know how that was going to look, to where she felt like she could really, produce and be a factor from really game one.
And then when she hit her first three, it was like I was actually doing scorebook, but I know I probably jumped up and raised my arm like, okay, here we go. here we go. And and it did. I could see on her that as soon as that 3 hit, she had a big smile on her face, and she just played, and she was having fun again. And so it was, she's had, injuries since then, but every time she plays, and I can just see the change on her face when she knows, okay, I'm good. I can play. This is fun for me.
And that's a huge testament to her drive and her determination and her mindset and her goal setting very early on and her vision.
I still have a very major goal of playing college basketball. I definitely think I am working towards it right now. I'm trying to still get better with my knee. But I think after my knee injury, I realized how much I love basketball again, but also when it was taken away from me, I found myself within that, and I realized that I am a person without basketball. So if I were to choose the path of just going to pursue my career, that is fine. I will do just fine. But when it comes to still going to tournaments and still trying to play with AAU to get a scholarship, that's still a major goal. But I know that if I don't play college basketball, it won't be the end of the world.
With Ellie getting back into basketball, she's more mature now as just her age-wise, so you could see that helped, and it made her she was an upperclassman, so she did feel like she could help the other girls, and she knew what she was talking about, especially going to this trainer. And all these years of playing, she knows basketball, and just to see her be able to be a captain and go out there on the court, and she's still, it's girls basketball. They get frustrated with each other, and they're girls in general, but just her knowing that, okay, I know these things, and her new coach being, so supportive of her, and, really giving her the confidence to know that, you are a good player, you're capable, and he wants to help her. He wants to help her, if she wants to play college ball, which she does, he is going to do everything he can to help her. Even in the off season, he's already talked about it. So that has made a huge difference. Just, I don't know if we'd had a different coach, if it would have been as good as it has been, because she's definitely happy playing basketball, and she's just more confident in general and happy in general. It's nice to see her be happy more than she's not.
I think on the court, she can be a leader, and I feel like she always has been. She's just always had that voice for basketball and that mentality and the passion for it. And she also helps everyone else on the court and her teammates as well. And she has a lot of respect for herself, her coach, her player, like her teammates and the players, the other players on the court. And I don't know, she's just been always someone I've looked up to, especially in basketball, because I kind of fell out of it, but seeing that how she saw basketball was just inspiring, and it's just eye-opening.
Her example of the foundation that needs to be built, and the culture that will be, and the mentality and fun that a basketball season should be, that's what creates an environment where winning can happen. And that would be my biggest hope, is that she could be a leader in that. Her maturity to be where she's at today is been astronomical. So her starting to voice that out into the others and lead by example and be healthy and have fun would be my biggest desires for her this year.
If I were to talk to my 8-year-old self, I would give the advice to not think that basketball is all or nothing. It's not you play and then you're not, and if you don't play, you're nothing in this world. I think I could have told myself that you just need to continue to have fun with it. Stop letting opinions of other people define how you are as a person, define how you are as a player. And I think that would have allowed me, to skip that chapter of maybe wanting to quit, because I would have just continued to have fun. And if I wasn't having fun, I wouldn't think quitting was that bad. I could have stopped playing a long time ago if I just wasn't having fun. But I let the aspect of wanting to play college, or just trying to make sure I'm making my coaches proud, my parents proud, my family in general, and I think I took that to an extreme, and it just really lost the love for the game. So if I just kept it, if I'm doing it because I want to,
then you'll be just fine.